Hello, and welcome to What Am I Doing, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast where one experienced dungeon master and one failed scriptwriter discuss D&D topics. My name is Kinsey, and my ridiculously inadequate pod partner is...
It's Lewis McCaffery. Hello there, Connor. How are you?
I know I was meant to say it, but then I thought it'd put you off straight away.
It really did, thank you.
I'm great, thank you. And it was recently your birthday.
It was, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's okay, 2 weeks ago now.
No, a few days ago.
But yes, that's
Forgotten already.
Yes, well, in D&D years, it's like dog years.
Yeah.
That's what the D stands for.
I'm sure it is.
It's dog days.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first episode, our first time ever doing this podcast, the topic is what makes a good adventure. So let's get to it. So, today's topic is what makes a good adventure, how do we make that a good experience, and as both a DM and a player. Lewis, I've been repeatedly kicked in the head by a horse, but I'm in the midst of planning my adventure. What am I doing?
First of all, that would actually explain a lot, Connor. I appreciate you sharing that. I think the first thing to go off when you're starting to create your first adventure, or if it isn't your first, just any, is having obviously a start and an end, but also remembering that you need to include or have enough fun for players in the middle and a bit of a good mix of roleplay, combat, generally just a story to follow that isn't too rigid, that allows for your players to explore and also feel like they're having an impact on the story and they're not just following on as though they're reading a book.
Well, I did say that I was repeatedly kicked in a horse, so it would have been helpful if you had spoken to me like I was 5 for that explanation. I've got a couple of notes, a couple of questions in advance, just so people at this point aren't shocked that this is planned, because clearly it is very thorough. Would you consider an adventure the experience in the session or the conclusion to the quest?
A little bit of both. Mainly a lot of people say the experience, the best thing is the journey that your characters go on, which I largely agree with, because you could easily have a start and an end to a quest and nothing in between and it feel shallow and empty, but I think it's the relationships that your characters make, whether that's with other player characters or with NPCs. It's the experiences that you have whilst fighting dragons or saving princesses or whatever you might be doing. I mean, I'm sure there are some things you can probably think of where the ending to a session or to a quest might have been a little underwhelming, but the whole thing itself was still a good quest given the journey your character went on.
Does it require teamwork?
Again, yes and no, I think. There's always an element of being in a team. Whether that is you working with your team to complete a puzzle or to answer a riddle or get through a dungeon. But sometimes it's fun to work against your team. If you've got conflicting personalities, for example, or conflicting alignments, it can be quite fun. It can add some necessary tension to have that rogue player go off on a bit of a tangent which throws everyone off, not just the players, but the DM included. I mean, for you, what are some examples where you've been running a quest and people have or haven't worked as a team? Which have you found has been the most rewarding as a dungeon master?
I think when they work as a team, but they actually kind of realise they have to work as a team rather than take it for granted.
Being forced to.
Yeah, because when they just go off murder hobo on their own and it doesn't work out, they very quickly become they're like a pack of wolves and just turn on the person who's ruined it. But if they can just naturally realise that together they'll need to do it rather than be told, or realise it after it's too late, then they're the most satisfying sessions, I think.
Yeah, I think ones like that, it's not just the players realising they have to do that, but it's more character growth as well. Because everyone loves having that character that is all about themselves, but as soon as that character branches out and realises, like, oh wait, I actually need help with this, and involves everyone else, it helps both the players and the characters themselves to progress.
Mistakes and detours, do they add to the experience of an adventure?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, not only can can it be funny? If you're in an incredibly intense boss battle, for example, and someone gets a nat 1, a critical fail, and does something ridiculous, it can be hilarious, as we both know. But in terms of detours, still, definitely. There's always something rewarding, I think, about in the middle of a quest just getting sidetracked, whether it's a red herring, whether it's something completely different, because then it gives the DM the opportunity to add a bit of a time crunch, but it also helps to make the world feel more alive. It's not just, here's a quest, go and do it, nothing else matters. Like, there are other things you could be doing.
Yeah, I think that you can plan and plan and plan, but when they end up almost planning something themselves by accident, that kind of works out in your favour as a DM, because it feels more real to them, right? That you couldn't have planned for it, and they've done something that they've kind of like started the action, they've instigated it, and so that is then exciting. As long as you can wing it as the DM to make it continue to feel believable.
Yeah, you hear so many stories, whether from people we know or people online, where they've spent hours planning, and I know we've done this, and within the first half an hour of a session, you're already making things up or allowing the players to just explore because they've done something you didn't expect.
Do we need high stakes to experience adventure?
I don't think you need them. I think if high stakes are used too often, depending on what those stakes are, then it can remove the stress of it. If you are, let's say, if there's a friendly NPC that the party has grown fond of, most likely a goblin named Boblin, and that goblin is in danger of being killed, kidnapped, or whatever it is, then it's likely that the party will try and band together in a tense scenario to try and save that person. But if you do that every single session or every quest where someone's life is in danger, it will get to the point where there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing tense about it anymore because you know it's going to happen again. What are some tense situations that you've done in your quests that worked out well, do you think?
Ooh. I think more recently, my idea of a good session is when you kind of turn the party on themselves, and and that wasn't the plan at all. That's not what I've planned for, but their alignments being conflicting almost completes the session, because then it's very real. They're not having to go and fight some guy or like some queen to get what they need, because that's kind of expected in D&D. But when they realise it could be them based on what they want, and they might want different things, before they've even got to the actual villain, then that's a lot harder, right? Because if it's just a villain, then you know you've got to go and kill that person. There's no like empathy, no thought. You're just going to go and do it and complete the mission, get XP, but you don't want to kill your team.
Yeah,
I think that's more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, in that one, being one of the only good alignment characters in the session you're talking about, I can stand or act as witness to say that was a very, very, very tense situation. It was great.
Okay, so one last question. What's your ideal session?
Don't do this to me. Ideal session. I think, for me, both as a player and as a dungeon master, I think something that leans more towards roleplay, not in the sense of sitting around a table talking, but more even when you're in combat, where it's not just wait for your turn, roll the dice, great, you do 30 damage or 3 damage or however much it is, but actually having to, let's say, discuss things on your turns between combat, or having to actually think about your character's actions. For example, if you're in combat and one of the enemies that you're fighting threatens a child, then you obviously as a party have to band together, do that role play whilst fighting to well, in that case, to save that child. I think sessions that really make you act in character are the best, because those are the only ones that allow for pure character growth. But I'm also a sucker, in terms of being a dungeon master, for very traumatic sessions. Those are my favourite, because again, they allow for some very, very good character development. What about you? What's your ideal session?
Oh, mine is just like pure chaos. I think one of my favourite sessions is my character who has dementia just continuously eating poisonous mushrooms, as he just kept forgetting every time he got to the next one. And that was, being the highest level player in that session, was pretty worrying for the much lower players.
Yep, everyone looking to you to save them, where you're just on your hands and knees eating poisonous food.
I will get killed by the environment. They're literally my favourite kind of sessions, where like it's a complete U-turn or expectations for other players, expecting me to do anything for them. Okay, so this is our first podcast. These are very short, whippy little information pieces rather than long 4-hour kind of rule book. Yeah.
Just a little 10, 15, 20 max minute thing you can listen to on the train, walking to work, whatever you want.
Exactly. With that, our outro today. Today's adventure is sadly coming to a close. We are back again next week with the topic, Am I Tall Enough to Frisbee? To the Patreon. I've been Connor Kinsey.
I've been Lewis McCaffery.
Good day.
Adios.
We just want to say thank you for tuning in, and if you'd like to join in on the D&D action or just support the show, then please head over to our server Patreon, Adventures in Elantra. You can find a link in the About section there for the Discord server, and if you struggle with words like myself, then you can find the link in the About section of your chosen listening platform for the link to the Patreon.